Greetings gastronauts, this is KeefCooks, I'm Keef, and today I'm going to do something that's extremely challenging, very difficult and fiddly, but probably worth the effort at the end. I'm going to have a go at making an opera cake with a twist. Da, da, da. So what's the twist, Keefy? Well, I'm going to use Covfefe. Okay, it's going to be an opera Covfefe cake in honour of the beloved president across the pond. So I owe the inspiration for this to two people. The first one is Adam from Adam's Eats, very nice channel, go over there, watch it, subscribe. And the other one, President Donald J. Trump, who invented this new word, Covfefe, which, you know, nobody knows what it is, but I do. So I'm going to stick some in my cake and it'll be wonderful. This might turn out to be an epic, so fingers crossed. Anyway, let's do it. So ingredients for the sponge cake, I've got 3 egg whites, 3 whole eggs, a tablespoon of granulated sugar, 100 grams of ground almonds, 100 grams of caster sugar, powdered sugar, 50 grams of plain white all-purpose flour, 30 grams of unsalted butter, teeny pinch of salt, teeny pinch of cream of tartar, and non-standard for an opera cake, a little bit of orange food colouring. So before we start making the sponge batter, you need to prepare something to bake your sponge in. So I've got this smallish baking sheet and I think that'll be about the right size. I reserve the right to change my mind later. You want to line it with some greaseproof paper. So what I'm going to do is just dab some butter to act as kind of glue to hold it down. This is different from that butter there. This is extra. So you can see the paper's a little bit bigger than the tin, so we'll have something to grab hold of to get the sponge out when it's baked. And you just want to butter that all over. I know this is belt and braces, but that's what we do around here. You also need to get your oven preheating to 200 degrees Celsius if it's a fan oven, or 220 if it's a conventional one. And don't ask me about gas. Right, first thing I'm going to do is separate 3 eggs. Okay, yolks in there and the white in there. Very important when you're making a meringue type thing that you don't get any yolk in with your egg white, because then it won't work basically. So that's why I'm using 3 bowls. Not because I love washing up. And yeah, I know about the plastic bottle hack, never works for me. Right, now I've got my 3 whole eggs in a bowl. Got my mixer and I'm just going to mix those for about 2 or 3 minutes till they kind of form ribbons when you take the machine out. Well, not very ribbony, but I think that'd be okay. And also it's tripled in volume, so that's a good thing. Now we need to add the ground almonds and sift them through a sieve so we don't get big clumps of them. And the caster sugar, and we just want to stir those in. Get them well combined. Now add the flour and fold that in. Trying not to knock the air out of the mixture. And I almost forgot, we need the food colouring in there, which is more red than orange. Might be alright. Actually, that's very fine, that's perfect fake tan colour. So set that on one side and get a different bowl. I've cleaned the beaters on the mixer. What we're going to do now is mess about with the egg whites and beat those to soft peaks. Actually, before we get to the soft peak stage, we want to add the salt, teeny bit, and the cream of tartar. This stuff helps stabilise the meringue, apparently. Okay, those look like soft peaks to me. So now we need to add a tablespoon of granulated sugar and whisk that in until we get stiff peaks. There we have stiff peaks. And what I've done now is I've melted that butter and I'm going to fold that into the almond mixture a bit at a time. Okay, like that. And now we just want to pop the butter in, fold that in as well. Right, now we'll pop it in the tin. I might have to use maybe 2 tins, I don't know. This should be about 6 mil, about 1/4 of an inch thick, maybe a bit more. Yeah, let's be generous. And just smooth that right to the edges, and we want to try and get a nice even layer. Okay, and that goes in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes. Yay! So we have achieved sponge. If you press it, it should be a little bit springy, and it is. Now we need to let that cool down in the tin for about 10 minutes, and then we'll see about getting it out. Right, that's had 10 minutes to cool down, so now we'll see if we can deal with it without it cracking and breaking. I think what I'll do is flip it. Yeah, baby. Now that needs to be on the rack. Okay, oh, it's quite spongy. Shouldn't be a surprise given that it's sponge cake. Right, that can just sit around till we're ready for it. So, did I mention an opera cake or a Covfefe cake isn't a simple undertaking. It's not that any of the stages are particularly difficult, it's just that there's a lot of them. There are 5 or 6 separate elements. We've got cake, Covfefe syrup, Covfefe buttercream, chocolate ganache, chocolate glaze, and the secret 6th element for decoration, which I may or may not do. Anyway, so the key thing to do is give yourself plenty of time, even a couple of days. You can make everything one day, get it all nice and cool, and then just take your time assembling it when you're ready, in theory. Okay, time to make the Covfefe syrup. So I've got 100 grams of granulated sugar and 100 mils of water, and the secret ingredient, Covfefe. This is extracted from 100% American Covfefe, or using the constant negative press method, and it's very hard to get, very expensive. Smells a bit like coffee. Anyway, what we need to do is melt the sugar into the water in a little saucepan and let it simmer for 5 minutes. So the simple syrup is ready. Now we add 2 teaspoons of Covfefe. And just enough boiling water to dissolve it. And then pour that into the syrup. Give it a good stir and leave it alone to cool down. And if you wanted a really rich flavour, you could put a splash of brandy in there. I'm just going to start soaking this sponge with the Covfefe syrup. And you want lots and lots of it. You want it to soak right into the sponge. Ingredients for the Covfefe buttercream. I've got 100 grams of softened butter, 200 grams of caster sugar, powdered sugar, a tablespoon of double cream, heavy cream, and a tablespoon of Covfefe dissolved in boiling water, and also a bit more orange food colouring. So we need to start off by beating the butter till it's smooth. And softened butter, it's quite a warm day, so this is pretty soft. If it was a cool day, you might want to leave it near a radiator or something, but what you mustn't do is melt it. And now beat in the sugar till you have a nice smooth and creamy mix. This may take some time. That's looking good. So now I'll add a Covfefe. Oh, it smells terrific. The fake tan colour. I actually mixed this with red and yellow, so looks like there's possibly too much red in there again. And a tablespoon of cream. Just mix that all together till it's nice and smooth. Oh, it is turning orange, look. Hey. Now, it might be a little bit runny, this now. So I'll stick it in the fridge and see how it sets. If it doesn't set firmly enough, I'll do something else with it. Now we'll make the ganache, which, you know, the French name sounds complicated, because most French things are. But, oh dear, I'll get in trouble for that. However, this is actually the simplest thing in the entire recipe. You want 100 grams of dark chocolate, and you want 100 grams of double heavy cream. The chocolate needs to be 70% or more cocoa solids. So first thing to do is bring this almost to the boil. So I've broken up the chocolate into little bits, and there's my hot cream, and we just pour that over the chocolate and stir it until the chocolate melts. Look at that, looking a bit fab. Okay, I reckon that'll do, and that goes in the fridge to cool down. I'm going to make a mirror finish glaze. I've never done this before, but if it works, it'll be fantastic. If it doesn't, we won't speak any more about it, okay? So ingredients, you need 4 tablespoons of water, 4 tablespoons of cream, double cream, heavy cream, 75 grams of caster sugar, powdered sugar, a teaspoon of gelatin, powdered gelatin, and a tablespoon and a half of cocoa. So I need to put the water and the cream and the sugar in a little saucepan and heat those up till the sugar is melted. Okay, now I want to add the gelatin, 1 teaspoon. Just sprinkle that onto the hot mixture and stir it well to get it all dissolved. If you're using sheet gelatin, you need to bloom it first. Follow the instructions on the packet. And now the cocoa. Now I should have sifted the cocoa into this because it's gone a bit lumpy. Anyway, I'll see if I can strain it. I think I might have to go to the shop and get some more cocoa powder. Well, I'll stick that in the fridge and see what happens to it. But anyway, that needs to cool down to 32 degrees Celsius, which is the best temperature to use it at. Not hotter than that, not colder. Right, got all my bits, except for the crazy decoration, which can only be done right at the last minute. So let's make a cake. Here's my sponge. We want to cut that in half. I don't think I explained, but an opera cake normally has 4 layers, so I'll just cut that into quarters. So it's not going to be a huge cake, but I'm pretty sure it will be a wonderful one. Okay. This isn't the final cut. We'll trim it exactly when we've got all the layers glued up. Oh, I'm so excited. I just can't hide it. Come on, come on. Oh, look at that. This is the buttercream. Oh, it's beautiful texture. So I plastered them with the buttercream. Try and get it as smooth as you can, but I'm not a plasterer, so. Before I assemble the next bit, which will be the bottom half, I want to coat this with the chocolate ganache, which has been in the fridge. It's a bit too firm to spread at the moment. So I'm just going to pop that over a pan of hot water for a minute or two until it softens. Right, this is much easier to manage, so we'll just spread a nice thick layer on this piece. This goes on there. I'll just pop it on this plate to get it nice and flat. Then put the other sandwich on top. Actually, I said it was a small cake, but that's not that small now, is it? That's a brick of cake. Right, looking good. So, back in the fridge for that to firm up. Now then, boys and girls, it's the next day, I told you it could take some time. So I've taken my time. I've taken 3 days, and I reckon that's enough, really. Not 3 whole days. Anyway, so there's the cake, the naked cake, with very nice flat top, because that's upside down. It was resting on that all night. So what we need to do now is put the mirror glaze on. The mirror glaze has set solid, so I need to reheat that to 32 degrees Celsius. So I've got a pan with about 1 inch of water in there, just getting it warm, and then I've got a steel bowl, careful that the bowl doesn't come in contact with the water, and the glaze in the bowl, and we just monitor that with the old digital thermometer. Okay, it actually went over 32 degrees. It's tum-ti-tum, 37, 42, ooh, it's about 50 actually. But I think it'll be okay once it's cooled down again to 32. So we'll just have to wait. Okay, 10 minutes later, 30, 31, 32, 33. All right, close enough, let's do it. So all we want to do is get a nice smooth layer of this on our cake. Wow. That is shiny. Whoa. Anyway, in the fridge till it sets. Now, time for the secret 6th element. I suppose I have to tell you at some point. It's going to be a spun sugar thing. So what you need is a heavy based pan and a cup of ordinary white granulated sugar. That's all. I've seen other recipes that use corn syrup and add water and stuff like that, but you don't need it, you just need sugar. So what we're going to do is melt that into a caramel, and then we're going to flick it over these wooden spoons handles which are projecting above the worktop. There will be spun sugar everywhere, and if you're bothered about that, you know, cover it in newspaper and don't forget the dog. And also I've got a container full of cold water which is big enough to hold that pan, and once that's ready we pop it in there, or plunge it in there, to stop any further cooking. Right, don't know about you, but I'm scared. Okay, so what we do is turn the heat on, sort of medium, and pour in the sugar in the centre of the pan. Try not to get any on the edges, and we're not going to stir this at all, because if you start messing with it, it'll crystallise, and once that's happened, it's not going to work. So we just want the sugar to melt. Just let the heat do its work. Now if I just tilt the pan gently, you can see it is beginning to melt. This is very exciting. It's almost all melted, but it is kind of darker than I expected, and it's beginning to smell like toffee. Taffy. I reckon I'll take that off the heat and see what I can do with it. Oh dear. Right, I've destroyed this. I left it in the cold water too long, and it's set solid. So we'll make another batch. Ho hum. We might be okay. Ow, that's hot. I remelted it, but so that means it's gone a lot darker than I wanted it, and it's not. It's not behaving. Oh, what fun it is to ride. Well, actually, you know, possibly, I don't know. I have done spun sugar before, and it's always hit and miss. Maybe you need to do it every day for years and years. Right. Lost me fork. Found me fork. Right, I melted it again. So that's, and I'm not plunging it in the cold water, because I think that's just been cooling it too rapidly. So I'll let it cool down in the air, which might take a bit of time, but you know, got all day. And basically just keep doing that. Well, do that now and again. And when that dribble becomes slower and more stringy, then you can probably start spinning it. Ooh, and it's very hot, so be careful. Okay, we might be pretty much there. Yeah, that's more like it. So now I want to try and get some of this off there. Kind of form it into a ball of lustrous gold, just like the president's hair. Which was the original idea, but there you go. Right, enough of that. Now this will not stay like this for very long, so I need to get the cake finished, get this stuck on it, and get it photographed. Right, here's my shiny cake. It's well, you can see it's all kind of dribbled over there, but not to worry. Now it looks pretty ropey, so I'm gonna trim off the edges as neatly as I can. And I've got some boiling water standing by just to clean off the knife. Well, I think for a first attempt at an opera cake or a Covfefe cake, it's not bad at all. I have seen very many worse on the interwebs, some of them from professional websites, but this isn't quite parallel, so I'm going to trim off a bit more because I get to eat all these bits. Yeah, stripy cake. Right, taste test time. Mrs. KeefCooks. Oh, matching shirt.
Oh, that looks good.
It's very bling, isn't it?
It's shiny, isn't it?
Oh, pure bling. Whoa. Oh, solid lump of chocolate in there. You never saw that.
Start.
Yeah, at the top.
Okay.
Taste the Covfefe.
That is the sweetest thing I think I've ever tasted.
Darling.
That's okay.
Alright, enjoy. Covfefe cake. Or better, stuff like that. Now what? Do I have to eat it all?
Yeah.
Bye bye teeth. And that's that. I hope you enjoyed it. Now please do the usual: likes, shares, comments, subscriptions, donations, patronage, all that good stuff. Or just some of it. And thank you for watching, and see you next time.